first challenge that I think everybody in the transportation space would talk about is the market right now. The on the carrier side, it is a very difficult market. It is the rates have been drastically decreased, and fuel is up and down, but still very high. And then that a lot of this is all getting kind of, we're in the economic status that we are in the country, in the world. There's the issues over in Ukraine, and all of this really affects kind of the economy and affects what we're able to kind of profit from, or even just kind of sustain with as far as money.
Welcome to Business Ninjas, brought to you by WriteForMe, where you'll hear from business leaders who are out there growing their business and slaying it every day. Learn from the masters. Let's get started.
Hey everybody, this is Max Pittman from WriteForMe, and you're listening to another episode of the Business Ninjas podcast series. We meet experts who are making things happen and scaling their businesses, and today we're talking about GP Transco with Mr. Eric Dublis, who is the VP of Brokerage at GP Transco. Eric, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you, Max. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'd love to kind of dive into Eric here in a second. Before we do that, GP Transco is, for everyone who isn't aware, is in the transportation and supply chain logistics space. The company has been around for about 14 years, and love it if you can, maybe tell our community a little bit about yourself before we dive into the organization. So, who is Eric? Because I love it, if you could tell us a little bit about your role, some of the things you're focused on as we get things kicked off here.
Yeah, sure. So I'm the vice president of brokerage over at GP Transco. We have two sides of the house. There is asset side and brokerage side. So asset side is going to be the carriers, the actual trucks. Brokerage side is going to handle kind of more of that third party intermediate positioning, where we're working with both outside carriers and shippers and receivers. Myself, I actually got into transportation about 14 years ago. I was actually a stagehand on Broadway before that, and I needed to make a change. So I actually switched from city and career, did the whole thing all in one big swoop. When you're young and you're not tied down, it's pretty easy to make that move. Now I have a wife and two beautiful daughters, so I'm probably not moving any industries or cities anytime soon, except for retirement, which will be a nice time. But when I got into transportation, it was actually, I kind of fell backwards into it. I was doing IT sales, and it wasn't really my thing. I didn't feel like I understood what I was selling. So when I started getting into transportation, I really enjoyed it because it was, first of all, I understood it a little bit more. It made a little more sense to me. And second of all, it was something that I realized that you actually are making an impact every day in it, because at the end of the day, if there were no trucks running, there's actually an interesting, cool video about it that shows in about 5 days, we would be out of water, out of money, out of food. So it's pretty cool, and especially during COVID, to have been in part of the scene that was helping deliver vaccines, helping deliver food, really kind of making a difference. And during any kind of national disaster, we're always involved with FEMA, helping bring water and shelter to those who need it. So it's definitely a job and a career that you really can actually make a difference in, which has always been something that was important to me.
Definitely. I love that. I love that, right? Such a unique journey from Broadway to transportation. I love that. Really interesting.
Yeah.
So GP Transco, you guys focus on providing comprehensive transportation and logistics services specifically. Tell me a little bit about the organization and who you guys really focus in on, maybe on the brokerage side and on the asset side. Like, who are some of those ideal clients that you guys partner up with?
So GP Transco, what's pretty unique about us is that we're an asset and a brokerage, but we're also we're very technology focused, which is a little bit unique in this space, which is now starting to get more technology focused. You're starting to see a lot of that tech jump in. But I think nobody would be surprised to find out that transportation is light years behind everybody else in the technology space. But one of the things that's been really interesting about GP Transco that brought me over was the idea of kind of putting technology and transportation together to really create this entire solution, whether that be our system, our open road system, which is TMS that really helps track and is complete system used for safety, for where your loads are, where our empty trucks are, just giving you complete visibility and transparency. And on the brokerage side, where we're consistently evaluating new technologies that are coming out, we have digital load board capabilities. You can, if you're a carrier out there that's looking to book a load, you can literally book it without even talking to a person now. Me personally, I like talking to people, so I wouldn't be that guy. But you can just click a button now, almost like you would do it on an app on your phone, and pick up the load, agree to the rate. So we're really trying to drive that technology and use that to make it easier to do business with us on the carrier side and the brokerage, and easier for our customers to be able to see where their loads are, to understand what stage or process your freight's at for us. You can actually, on the asset side, you can track your load, and it looks like a helicopter is just following your truck. It pings every 2 seconds, and it shows you on Google Maps. It just looks like you're just following the truck down the road. So it's bringing real-time updates to all of our customers. And on the brokerage side, we use a slightly different system. We don't have as good of technology at that, because we can't put that technology in every truck that we're working with, as we're working on the outside. But we have technology to where you can have a complete transparent view of what's going on in our system. You'll know as soon as your load is covered. You'll know as soon as we're updated. We use teletronics to go ahead and use GPS tracking. So we should be pinging the phone about every 15 minutes, not at 2 seconds, but still pretty good. And you can keep your eye on that as long. If you want to watch your load the whole way, you can sit there and watch it. So we really try to bring that transparency to the customers. As far as who we like to work with and who our ideal customer is, on the asset side, we're a dry van customer, carrier only. So that's going to kind of limit with our products. We're not going to be able to use anything that's refrigerated, anything that needs to be kept temperature controlled. Certain to a degree, you can put temperature controlled on dry van, but that's more of like keeping it idle or wrapping it in a blanket. But for the most part, if you're using some kind of reefer product, you're going to have to use the actual refrigerated trucks, which we can do on the brokerage side. Same thing with flatbed. It's not going to be anything that's going to be over industrial, big heavy machinery that needs to be rolled up or loaded by a crane. So other than that, if you're doing dry product, we're doing a lot of electronics, we do a lot of paper product, we do a lot of packaging. And then on the brokerage side, we're actually moving pretty big into the food and beverage space. We do have some packaging customers. We have some bigger customers that are coming on board that are going to be more in the agricultural space. So we don't really kind of limit ourselves into what customers or what industries we work with. But what we do is when we kind of break into a new industry, we make sure to take the time to research that industry. We don't just want to, okay, yeah, sure, we're going to take your freight from A to B. We want to understand how it needs to be handled. One of our bigger customers is a glass company, and we couldn't just jump in and move glass. So we wanted to make sure we understood the safety protocols, the handling protocols, the strapping and the blocking and bracing that needed to get done for this customer. So we kind of take it a step further than just, yeah, we're going to move your product from A to B. We want to understand the industry. We want to understand where supply chain can affect you, can hurt you, can make you better, can value you.
Love it. Yeah. So it sounds like there's definitely been a commitment to technology to enhance your client services. And sounds like there's definitely like a user-friendly interface for both the clients, to track shipments and get updates and obviously manage operations. And then looks like you guys also do some stuff with fleet management as well, and to like really optimize things for the driver and for the user as well. So I love hearing that, and that there's an investment in technology and into specific industries that you guys are trying to either continue to work within or penetrate into as well. Like, can you give me maybe a couple of those top use cases as to why customers come to GP Transco to leverage your team's tools and technology?
Yeah, one of the biggest reasons I think is the fact that we do try to utilize all of our in-house tools, whether that be our asset trucks or a brokerage. Multiple customers, especially when you're in the food and beverage industry, you might have several shipments that need to be on dry van. You might have a few shipments that need to be on reefer. And instead of having to use, two separate companies for that, now you can kind of use one company that's giving you one final solution. And it's the same thing with when you're an asset truck company, you have your lanes, your corridors that you're going to be running, and you're going to try to stick to those lanes. You don't want to kind of get outside into those areas where you might not be too familiar. You don't know how you're going to get your load back, especially in this market. You don't want to be driving too many empty miles, because right now in the market, it's very low on the rate, so you're not going to make up kind of what you're driving empty. That's going to be burning cost. So we could utilize that by offering more capacity with other carriers that we've already trusted, that we've already vetted, that we've been working with. So it gives us a true kind of 48 state coverage of the country, and we both have that technology that we've already talked about to give you that better service, that better view, that better understanding. So when you're working with GP Transco, one of the things that people really like is the fact that they can have both sides of the house. We don't separate it as far as we don't work together. We work together, we work hand in hand. If our brokerage is picking up a load and our GP truck needs one, we'll gladly put a GP truck on that. Vice versa, if GP trucks might be held up at another shipper, instead of telling you, hey, sorry, we can't pick this up, we'll ask, can we send in a broker truck? We have one outside, just 30 miles down the road, and then we can go ahead and pick that up, and the service doesn't fail. Because at the end of the day, delays are what's going to hurt your business, and that's what we're trying to avoid. We try to use the best carriers on the brokerage side. We have a very high safety score on our side. We don't have, our inspections are quick. They're not going to be multiple hours where you're really sitting on the side of the road waiting for your product. So we don't want to cause any of those unnecessary delays that are going to cost you any more money. So that would be kind of the big thing that stands out that I've noticed, that I've talked to about with GP Transco. And the second thing, and this is the more important one to me really, is the staff, the people that we have at GP Transco. We have a culture of transparency. We have a culture of honesty. We have a culture of ethics. We truly hold to what we do. We say what we're going to do, and we do what we say. One of the biggest things that I can think about is we're not going to pretend that everything's great, because it's not. It's not always great. You're going to have issues, and I've always said, and I know it's been told around everybody in the company, is that's really where your relationship and that's really where your service is going to stand out. It's easy when the product goes from A to B with no bumps in the road. What happens when a tire blows out? What are the solutions you can bring to the customer when things aren't going great? And the best way we can do that is by being upfront with our communication, being early with our communication, and being very, very honest. And I think that goes a long way in this industry that's had some bad apples. That I think there's a big change in this industry that is trying to gear more towards being honest, more towards that proper service, more towards that transparency. And there's some very good players in that space, and we're one of them. So really, when you work with GP, we're not going to sugarcoat things, but you're always going to know what's going on. You're not always going to like the answer. Nope, never. Doesn't, just because you're honest doesn't mean people are happy with the answer. That's the truth. But you're going to know that you're getting the truth. You're going to know you're getting the right answer, and we're doing everything behind the scenes to make sure that we can solve that solution, and we can bring that option to you, whether you use it or not. At the end of the day, we just want to see your freight get from A to B, because that's what keeps you in business. And when you're in business and you're partnered with us, that's good for us.
Yeah, I love it. I love it. So it sounds like all of that is kind of made your reputation, stand out in this transportation logistics space, which is definitely like a very crowded space.
Yes.
You guys provide a wide range of services, but what I'm hearing from you specifically is, there's a focus on there's people, right? Processes, transparency, your service specifically, right? Like all help you stand out. But you tell me, like, why would, a customer go a GP Transco over maybe like your top competition?
Honestly, again, I think it's going to be our people. It's going to be our people along with that technology edge. But I think at the end of the day, we hire professionals. We are all professionals. I like to call it kind of more of the adult transportation space. We're not running the parties, and we're not getting big and fancy, but what we are doing is we're very serious about our job. And we take what we do very seriously. We're passionate about what we do, in each avenue of what we do, whether it be on our carrier sales team, where these guys and girls are dedicated to finding all the trucks that they possibly can find. They're constantly on the phones, reaching out to new carriers, trying to find out what loads they want, what areas they want to be in. making sure that carriers are being communicated with on a timely fashion, really making sure we take care of them with their accessorials, not making them wait, not making them jump through hoops, understanding what they're looking for. Since we are a carrier ourselves, we know what the headaches are. So we really try to drive that in our carrier sales side. And on the customer side, it's great to see these guys and girls come in and just really put their head down and work together and help each other out and make sure that they're covering each other, make sure that there's support. We have an office out in Columbia that actually does our customer service work and some of our tracking and tracing. And they are just the most dedicated people out there. And it's wonderful to see how well you can communicate from America and Colombia. And we have another office in Lithuania that is more of our asset operations, but they all just communicate in a seamless fashion. It might be, a little bit of the help of everybody got used to working remote when it kind of came into COVID, but we have offices, people are in the offices, and it's great. We have meetings, we have TV screens. It's almost like you show up to a meeting, half the people are in the room, the other half are on these big TV screens. They're in their meeting rooms, but we pride ourselves on pushing that communication so that if there's a solution, it might not come from the one avenue that we're really thinking about. Maybe I'm trying to figure out how to solve a lane with the carrier sales, and it might actually come from somebody in operations at GP Trans on the asset side. And but since we have that open communication, we have that kind of open dialogue, we have weekly meetings with the entire staff, kind of addressing some of these things, talking about where we're moving forward and where we might be struggling. We have that avenue to really be able to pick all 200 and plus, office members and staff members' brains and really utilize that, because you never know who's going to have the best answer.
Yeah, I love it. No, it's great, right? So there's definitely team aspect and global aspect to the organization, how you guys are growing and scaling. Like, what would you say, I guess, maybe are some like the biggest challenges that you guys are facing? Is it, obviously there's a lot of issues with supply chain logistics, like, coming out of COVID and over the past year or so, but maybe are you guys still seeing anything there? Maybe it's something around sustainability and environmental responsibility. What are some of the challenges that you guys are talking about internally that you guys are trying to overcome today?
So first challenge that I think everybody in the transportation space would talk about is the market right now. The on the carrier side, it is a very, very difficult market. It is the rates have been drastically decreased, and fuel is up and down, but still very high. And then that a lot of this is all getting kind of, we're in the economic status that we are in the country, in the world. There's the issues over in Ukraine, and all of this really affects kind of the economy and affects what we're able to kind of profit from, or even just kind of sustain with as far as money. But outside of that, that's going to always be your number one issue, no matter if you're doing great or bad. It's always, how do you do better? How do you improve your profitabilities? But outside of that, I think sustainability is a big one that we talk about. We actually just are piloting some solar panels for our truck to really help reduce even more our carbon footprint. It's been a huge push of ours even before COVID, to really kind of make sure that we are very conscious of the environment and what trucks actually do to the environment. So we try to make sure our drivers understand how to drive the most efficiently, that our trucks are built and clean and kept in the best shape so that they're running at peak condition. And we're looking at every way we possibly can to reduce idle time, to reduce emissions. We're always investigating new technologies. As I said, we now have the solar panels on some of these trucks that are going to be really cool. We're really excited about what this can do for us and how this can really even help lower our carbon footprint even more. But I think as a company itself, we're just very conscious of those outside factors of what we're actually could be doing to the environment, and trying to limit that to make sure that we're doing everything in our ability to take care of what's our responsibility.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Yeah, I appreciate you sharing that, right? Because there's, I feel like, definitely a responsibility that we all can make on an individual level, but on a global scale, for sure. Like being in the transportation space, there's you hear a lot about ESG, environmental. I can't remember the whole acronym, but yeah, like these big corporate clients now need to really be focusing on ESG, and environmental is a big piece of that. So I was just kind of curious, like how you guys were approaching environment and the sustainability and, and technology that's out there to potentially be, have a cleaner, fleet force or something like that. That's really interesting to me.
One of the things that was told to me, actually, I think it was my first or second day starting at GP Transco, I was kind of getting the walk around, and they were showing me, they got me to go kind of walk through the truck, and they're explaining to me all the technology that they have in there. And the thing that was said was, I thought it was pretty cool, was we don't look at technology as kind of, okay, let's avoid this to the last second, like this is just a cost. They look at it as we look at it as a value. And we look at what's going to be required in 5-10 years from trucks. What are we going to need to be, not only from legal statements, but just from like, to be able to be sustainable, to be able to be economically, responsible. What could we put in our trucks? And we're going to put them in now. We're going to be the first ones to do it. We're going to pilot them. We've partnered with a lot of technologies that we're just trying to, hey, let's see if this works. We're going to do that. We're going to try and always take that next step and be the front runners to pushing that envelope, to pushing those technologies that can improve, air quality, drive time, make just everybody's life a little bit safer and better. And we're not going to wait until the government tells us to do it. We might be the ones that the government says, hey, be more like them. So I think somebody once called this the Apple of trucking, which I thought was a cool term. I don't know if we're quite there yet, but
yeah, I don't know how you would market that, but I like that. Yeah. How are you, like, from a sales perspective, right? I know you're definitely focused on developing new opportunities, right? So like, what are some of the ways that, you guys are getting your message out to the market? How's marketing, I guess, playing a role in helping the business stand out?
Yeah, so our marketing team is constantly creating new content, especially out in with YouTube and on LinkedIn. I think I actually just heard this. For a trucking company, it's pretty cool. I think on Facebook, we just hit 10,000 subscribers, which doesn't sound like a lot in the world of all these influencers, but this is a trucking company. So that's pretty cool. And I think the same thing on YouTube. I think our YouTube channel just hit a little over 2,000, which again, sure, there's a lot of people with 1 million views, but this is, again, a trucking company, and it's pretty cool because our marketing team does some great content. We highlight drivers. We have really cool interviews with them, and we let them tell them their story about, what are they doing, what brought them into driving, what do they like about driving, what are their interests outside of driving, and we have some really cool stories. There was one of a photographer, and he wherever he's driving, he takes some really beautiful pictures. Another one was, I'm pretty sure the guy could be a professional guitar player, but just he's amazing. It's things that people don't think about when you see a truck on the road. You just see a truck. You don't realize this is really cool individual who's driving that truck. So it's something we highlight. We do the same thing a little bit with the staff. We're starting to do more of that. Then they came out with something really cool. They're starting to do some customer highlights where they're really kind of going in and showing with some of these customers that we're really intertwined with, and that we're really, really kind of helping out with all their aspects of their supply chain. And they're going in and they're letting us film, show, kind of how the process works, show the trucks coming in. How is this helping them? How are we, being better for them? What could we do better? What could other trucking companies do better? What does that process look like? So we've done our first one that I think they're going to release in a couple of weeks. So that's pretty cool. So they think very outside the box. It's not just your standard, like, hey, we can move your freight. It's more of, this is who we are. We are this really cool company, and it's a trucking company. And I think that's kind of more of a message. We're doing these great things. We have these great people that work for us, and we provide this really awesome service.
Very cool.
Yeah,
I love it. Right. So it sounds like there's definitely a focus on social, and the social focus is to highlight potentially like the culture, the staff, and the accounts that you guys have partnered with, and how you guys work together. So it's really kind of telling that internal story. But what about, like, how are you guys focusing on, like, educating the market and space on the value that you guys provide? How are you guys partnering with marketing on that?
so with marketing on that, we definitely do the newsletters. We'll kind of send out to our mailing list of kind of, this is, monthly, this is what's new with GP, this is what we've done, these are the things that we're looking at, these are the technologies we're looking to either take on or that we've just added. We also, we'll put that out on LinkedIn, we'll put that out on the social as well. we will, put that out through our website, and we'll create some white pages for that. I think, that's an area I definitely want to look more into and do a little bit more with, as well as we'd like to kind of educate more. As I've said, we have these really smart people, these experts in this industry. And one of the things I think we could do better of is just letting our knowledge out there, not just about GP, just about the industry. Like people that are coming in and first starting it, be great to be able to have some information, maybe blog or more, case studies or even videos about just this is what this is. This is what it means. This is how you rate line haul plus fuel. This is what a fuel surcharge is. This is even the smallest stuff like that. What's breakthrough fuel? What's this? And just kind of help get people to understand exactly what they're hearing and what they're doing. Because when you first come into transportation, there's a lot of terms that are thrown around that you just kind of go, that doesn't make sense to me. You just spoke another language. So, and then just kind of telling more stories about what we've seen have to work, what we've seen to better people's position in this industry, what we've seen people like customers of ours that have had challenges and how we've tackled those challenges. And because sometimes that's the best way to kind of figure it out is, okay, you have a similar challenge than me. How have you overcame that? And how has GP or anybody else helped you overcome that? So it's definitely an avenue that I think I'd like to do a little bit more of, is share our expertise a little bit more. And this is kind of a little bit of a start.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and your podcast too is also another way for people to kind of get a different aspect to who you guys are and what you're doing as well. And as I see, this type of content is a way to like really educate and inform versus like inspire, motivate, or even entertain, right? Like this type of content that I think we're building is, there's valuable, insightful information here that you can't necessarily get from maybe looking at the website, right? So that's the type of content that we're focusing in on here, is like creating growth stories, right? So for you, like how are you focusing your podcast? Like what is the focus of the content there?
So my podcast is a little bit separate from GP, but what it is it's focused on more of kind of just my passion, which is leadership, and it is understanding the new wave of the workforce, the new flow, where it's for so long it's been this not even 9 to 5, 7 to 5, 7 to 6 kind of workforce, and it's always, you've done it because this is how it's always been done, not allowing free thinkers, and I think the generation now that's entering the workforce, and the few generations that have entered that are now kind of becoming into leaders, there's a crave to be able to flex that creative muscle, to be able to really have your voice being heard. Now, that doesn't always mean that your voice is going to be utilized, or that it's gonna have the correct answer, but you have to have that space to try it. You have to have that space to hear it. You have to have that space to gain that confidence to talk about it. So I noticed that being a little, I guess when I was a little bit older in a younger man's game, I started kind of to feel that. And so I really got passionate about kind of, the change in leadership that needs to be. No longer is that slam on the desk kind of yell at you leader is going to get you anywhere. I think, it's more about, how do you motivate? How do you work with people? How do you give people, the proper respect that's deserved? More of that servant leadership that I think you're hearing a lot about now.
I love it. I love it. Well, where can people find that podcast? Love to give you the opportunity to plug that too.
I would love to plug it. We just don't have it published yet. We have about 9 episodes in, so we're working on some editing, but we're definitely going to get it out there. And as soon as I do, I'm sure I will try to blast it everywhere. And
For sure. That's awesome. Yeah, absolutely. Well, what's next for GP Transco? Like, tell me, I guess, a little about like what's going on internally. You guys are looking to solve for by the end of your fiscal. Like, what are some of those kind of like? Is there, maybe it's key revenue metrics, maybe it's a culture metric. I don't know. Let me kind of share like what's something you guys want to be celebrating. At the end.
So right now we're in a tough market. We're in a down market for the industry, especially for brokerage and carriers. So what we're kind of utilizing this time as is going to be more of kind of our utilizing it to examine our process efficiencies and our technologies that we're working with. What can we cut? What should we change? What process do we need to reevaluate? Really kind of hone in all those things that you really can't do when freight's flying at you and you're moving at 100,000 miles a minute. So we're really working on this to really hone in our structure, make sure that we have everything in place, that we have all the tools ready to go for when this market does turn, and the volumes start picking up, and making sure we're strategically in touch with the correct people and the correct partners that we want to be with as far as in the customer space. I mean, right now you're not going to come in and just take a million loads off your first shot, but you got to start having those conversations. You got to start letting the people know who you are. Already this year, our growth in a down market alone, volume wise, is up about 150 loads per week, which is a good amount. Like to see another growth of about that amount, if not more, by the end of the quarter, but I think, or at the end of the year. But I think our real goal is to make sure we're positioned with all the strategic partners that we identified in the beginning of the year, and that we've strengthened that bond, that we've strengthened that relationship. We've made the right connections, we've made the right contacts, and put ourselves in a position for 2024 to really kind of have that next step, that big jump again. So
love it. That's awesome. We're looking forward to seeing how you guys grow over the coming weeks, months, years as well. And hopefully the market shifts as well.
yeah.
That's the big hope, right?
Everybody's hoping for that.
Yes. Be patient. So I know I am, but as we wrap things up here, look, I really appreciate you being here, Eric, and telling your story. And I want to give you kind of the floors, or as you have your podcast, kind of a leadership podcast. You're here as the VP of brokerage. You changed careers, and now you've gotten to where you are today. Any advice or anything that you think that you'd want to share with executives, entrepreneurs, other sales and marketing leaders that you want to leave the audience with?
Yeah. To me, it's always been interesting. One of the things about me that's obviously from when I was born, I'm dyslexic, and it taught me something at a very young age, and that was that there's going to be a million ways to kind of get something done, but what really matters is the effort and the time that you're going to put into it. So don't just shoot down somebody's idea because it's not the way it would work for you. Take a look at it. Maybe it would be the best way to work for them. There's not always one way, as they say, to skin the cat. But I think too often we get pigeonholed into this is the quote unquote company way. And I've been able to really see a benefit by letting my team kind of choose the way they're going to operate about it. Now, there's certain metrics you have to govern. There's certain numbers you're going to want to see from it. And if it's not working, okay, let's try something new. But I think you have to be able to let your team fail, and you have to trust that they're gonna go ahead and try and come in from it with the best intentions. And I think if you let them do that, you'll be surprised. I know I've definitely kind of been my mind's been changed multiple times over the past year and a half working here at GP, just letting people bring me options, bring me opinions, and just honestly listening to them, and not coming at it as, well, I know everything, I've been in the industry longer than you. And just because you've been in the industry long, it might actually be a default. It might be a problem, because now I'm so set in a way that I'm not actually seeing the true solution.
Love that. Yeah, it's really great advice. Yeah, keeping an open mind, listening, trying to, be empathetic and humble, and where you are, and where people also have other opinions, and from like people might have fresh opinions, or opinions that you haven't even thought about, right? So having that open mind, and being just a good listener, I think are great for obviously in business and in life with our significant others and family too.
It's a very underrated skill.
Yes, it is. I love it. That's great. I really appreciate you sharing that, Eric. Well, everyone go check out GP Transco. Everyone check out Eric online. What's the best way people get a hold of you, Eric?
So we have the gptransco.com. We're on LinkedIn. As I said before, YouTube, Facebook. They all under GP Transco. And through the website, there'll be multiple contacts that you can reach out to depending on what service you're looking for. But it's pretty quickly laid out. It's a very nice website. Our marketing team did a very good job with it. I think our first conversation, Max, that was the first thing you pointed out, was that the website does look very nice and it is easy to navigate.
Yeah, definitely.
So, yep. Yeah.
Thank you for that, Eric. Yeah, everyone go check out GP Transco. If you're listening and you're in that space, definitely go check them out, obviously. And I appreciate you being here, Eric, sharing your story, talking about all the different opportunities you guys are looking to, first grow and solve for your clients, and also like as a company, like how you guys are thinking about, the future. So I appreciate you sharing that and being here, part of the Business Ninjas podcast.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Max.
Thanks, Eric. That wraps up another episode of our Business Ninjas episode series on growth stories. So thank you everyone so much for listening. Have a great rest of the day.